Finally, a Sicilian repertoire for the faint of memory. In just 10 lines, I got you covered against 1e4, white's most popular choice to start a chess game, with one of the strongest options out there for the black pieces, one that's played at the highest level of chess, the Sicilian Najdorf. Some people believe that you should wait until you're like 8 years old and 2000 FIDE in order to try this out. I believe otherwise. I think you should play what's fun for you. In this simplified version in just 10 lines, I give you some critical lines among the sidelines and also in the main lines of the Najdorf. Without further ado, let's get to it. So what is the Sicilian Najdorf? The Sicilian arises after e4, c5. We control d4, preventing white from creating a big white center. Now knight f3 is the main move, d6, controlling e5, helps us to develop the knight to f6, because we don't want to get hit by e5. Now d4, cd4, knight d4, this is the Open Sicilian. Knight f6, hitting the e4 pawn, knight c3, defends it. a6, this is the start of the Najdorf variation. This is a useful waiting move. We would like to play e5, but e5 right away would run into bishop b5 check, followed by knight f5. Therefore, we play this move first. Also, we want to wait for white to show us their hand before we decide on a scheme of development. Maybe we want knight c6 or knight bd7. We don't know if we want to play e5 or maybe e6. Now, on the second move, there are some sidelines that we have to be aware of. Here I'll give a few. Knight c3 first of all. Now on knight c3, white is not showing their hand yet, so we don't know. Like maybe if we were to play knight c6 here, anticipating a scheme of development as such, for instance, a closed Sicilian, then maybe white would play knight f3 and then d4. Then we're in an open Sicilian, but it's not a Najdorf anymore. So in order not to get move ordered, we play d6. Now, we play d6. The problem with that, with the downside, is that they can play f4, and now they get a better version of the Grand Prix attack. Still, it's not a problem for black. We play knight c6, and after, let's say, knight f3, now they're intending to go bishop c4, then castles, queen e1 to h4, d3, push this pawn, bring the bishop out, and try to checkmate us. We can't allow that. So we play g6 in general against the closed Sicilians, whether it's this setup or something like this. Then playing knight c6 and g6, I mean knight c6, g6, bishop g7 is not a bad idea. It's a pretty good scheme of development. So we play here. Now they pin our knight usually, and then we unpin because we do not want the double pawns here. Take castle, we go bishop g7. Now let's say they play d3, we go knight f6. Queen e1, intending queen h4 again, and then we play knight d4, offering a trade of bishops and a trade of knights. Usually they trade over here. We take back with the knight. We have good central control, and black is completely fine. If they play bishop c4 on the second move, the Bowdler Attack, this line is so good that it's not even featured as a footnote in my opening encyclopedia. So play e6, you blunt the diagonal of the bishop. Now, let's say they play knight c3, we play a6, intending b5. They prevent b5 by going a4. Now we play knight c6, preparing once again to go knight f6. They play d3 here. Now we play knight f6. They pin this knight because we were preparing d5 here. Now, d5 in general, if you can get it in for without a drawback, without any dangerous repercussions, it's good to get it in. So it's a good move to play for in a Sicilian if you can get it as black. Now they pin our knight, we unpin immediately, and here they usually go with knight e2, which is kind of an awkward move. Knight f3 was better if you were wondering, but still, like, it's not like losing, but already black is much better. And here I leave you the choice as to what to do. h6 you can throw in, or you can castle right away. You can also play b6, intending to fianchetto the bishop. Notice that this bishop doesn't have much of a prospect on this diagonal. Black has a big advantage no matter what, basically. And then there's a more serious line. There's a much more serious sideline. c3 the Alapin. So remember, we were stopping black from white from getting a big white center. Now they are insisting upon it. We can't stop d4, but we can make it so that their center will not be so flexible. So knight f6. We're attacking this pawn. They play e5, taking our knight. Knight d5, d4, cd4. Now the main line nowadays is to go knight f3 here. Notice that that doesn't gambit a pawn, because if we were to take, we would be plundering the horse and would have to resign. Instead, the old main line is what's played the most online. So cd4 here is the most played. Now d6. If they capture over here, we're very happy to recapture with the queen. Now they play knight f3 instead. We go knight c6. They go bishop c4, hitting our knight. We hit their bishop in turn with knight b6, bishop b5. Notice that they went bishop c4, bishop c5, bishop b5. You might think like, wow, that's a little bit bad for them. Like they are losing time. Well, not really, because I mean they went over here with a tempo on our knight, then we went over there with a tempo on their bishop. So those moves basically canceled out. It's as if they had gone here directly. Now, if we were to unpin like this, then this pawn would not be guarded by the queen anymore, and we would only have the pawn there to recapture. Instead, we go d5. Of course, if they recapture here with a pawn, that's great for us. I mean, we just trade over there, go into the end game. Black is doing fantastically there. Instead, they take over here with more pressure on the pinned piece. We go over there, unpinning and defending it. We don't care about giving them the bishop pair, which they do grab. You can't grab here with a knight. If you do that, then after d5, the position becomes messy and it's bad for us. Instead, queen d7. Now, after this, very important to notice, very important, we are not threatening to take here. You may say, oh, we have 2 attackers versus 1 defender. Yeah, no, because after we take over here, then they can take here with check, and then it's over for us. We have to resign, we lose the queen. So here they usually just castle. Then we're playing against an IQP. So this is an isolated queen's pawn. What does that mean? Well, first of all, the nomenclature, like the pawn is a queen's pawn because it's on the queen's file, and it's an isolated pawn because it has no neighbors. Now, what does that mean strategically? White will probably try to use the space advantage that the pawn gives them in order to develop their pieces more actively and perhaps start an attack. And also, they have a semi-open file here and an open file here for their rooks, their heavy pieces. Us, on the other hand, and also another thing, if they can take advantage of that space advantage and develop their pieces very actively and then push this pawn and trade it off, then they will have the perks without any drawback whatsoever. So we gotta be careful about that. That's another plan for white. Now, what would we like? Well, the player that's playing against the IQP, he would like to trade all the minor pieces, leave the heavy pieces on the board, and start piling up the pressure against this pawn when the pawn would no longer offer any benefit to white, because they wouldn't have an attack at that point and they would only have the weakness. So that's basically like the idea of a strategy about the IQP. Now we play e6 here, not only freeing this diagonal for the bishop, but also we are controlling the square in front of the IQP. Now knight c3. Remember that we're not threatening this. I mean, this is still a thing. So now we bring the rook to d8. Now we are threatening to actually take because the rook would defend. Bishop e3 defends that. Now we go bishop e7. Usually they go queen g4. We castle, and we have a great position and a good game ahead of us. So let's take a look at the Morra Gambit, the Smith-Morra Gambit, also some people call it. So d4. We take, of course. If they recapture with a queen, then we go knight c6, and we get a great game. We are developing a piece with a tempo and a queen just early on. Now, c3 they play instead. Is the Morra Gambit. So now the main move is taking. I mean, the top engine move is taking. But then they recapture like this, and that's basically what they wanted, right? Instead, and it's not a free pawn by any means. I mean, it's not the white does get compensation for it. So my idea is to play knight f6 here. So we play knight f6. We're hitting this pawn. And after they go e5, we go knight e5, and we transposed into the previous line of the Alapin. So there's an Alapin now, and we killed 2 birds with 1 stone, and also we didn't allow white to potentially get the position that they really wanted to get here by accepting the gambit. So we didn't accept that. Now, let's take a look at some moves on the third, some silence on the third move. So after this and this, first of all, the delayed Alapin. Let's start with that one. So the delayed Alapin, delayed because, you know, they are delaying it by 1 move, and Alapin because it's basically the same thing as the other. However, it's a different beast. We still play knight f6, but we're not threatening to capture this pawn right away, because that would run into this check over here, picking up the knight. Notice that now this diagonal is open. So we're not immediately threatening it, but we are putting pressure on it, and also we are stopping d4. d4 we're stopping, because in that case we would be able to capture here, because the queen would no longer see the horse. So that happens. They usually play, and also they can't play e5 here, kicking our knight, because we played d6 already. So those are some differences between the Alapin and the delayed Alapin. Now they go bishop e2, and we play here g6. I like playing g6 here, intending to fianchetto the bishop with bishop g7. This is a very straightforward way of going for equality. Now they castle. We play bishop g7, and they play rook e1, because after we castle here, now this no longer comes with a check. Therefore, we are actually threatening to take this pawn. But now the opponent shows that they are a strong player and they follow Ben Feingold's rules, and they always play bishop f1. So now they are discovering the defense of the pawn over there. To this, I want to reply with bishop g4, hitting this knight. But more importantly, we solve our development very easily. We're going to trade off this bishop for the knight. No worries for us there. Notice that this bishop didn't have like many good squares to develop to, first of all. And now when they go h3, do take here, and you know, they recapture. Otherwise, it makes absolutely no sense that you go over there. Like, if you retreat anywhere else, then it's either passive or just straight up loses a piece. Like, if you go over here, then you just get your piece trapped and it's over. So do capture over there. Now knight c6, and we have a perfectly fine position. It's an imbalanced position. We have knight and bishop versus 2 bishops. We're perfectly fine. It's the computer gives 0, 0, 0. So completely fine for us. Now another sideline, the other one that we're going to look at on move 3. So bishop e5. First I have to play my move. So bishop e5 check. It is called the Moscow variation, and it's considered one of the best anti-Sicilians out there. Now knight bd7 is possible, and it is the aggressive recommendation, but I prefer to recommend here the solid move bishop d7. After this trade, we can recapture with the knight, but recapturing with the queen I prefer, because now we have knight c6 at our disposal. After a castle over here, we first play knight f6, hitting the pawn. Knight c6 would also be fine, but I mean, we play here, hitting this pawn. They defended. Now we play knight c6, and then they usually go c3 in the Leech's database, intending to build the big white center again. Now we play e6, because after d4, cd4, cd4, we go d5, striking at the pawn center right away. Now they go e5, we go knight e4, and white has a great, black has a great position. I mean, both sides have great position, but I mean, white's advantage is minimal. We are going to develop with like bishop e7 or bishop b4 here, hitting the rook maybe, and then we're going to castle. Completely fine for us. So that's it for the sidelines. Okay, so let's go into the main lines. e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, white goes for the open Sicilian, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6, the Najdorf. We are using Hikaru's board and piece setup because things got serious. Pro thinks he's Hikaru now. Bishop c4 is the Sosin. This used to be Fischer's pit line. We play e6, blunting the bishop's diagonal. We intend to play b5 next. Be careful about allowing a strong version of the sacrifice on e6 that is so typical of these kinds of lines. Now, bishop b3, b5, castles is the most popular line. They may also start with castles, then b5, then bishop b3. They transpose to each other. Now, bishop e7, this is where I will stop because black is completely fine. White may go for something like f4 or queen f3. If queen f3 happens, be careful about e5 hitting the knight and also the rook at the same time. You may anticipate it by going queen to c7 or to b6, and then if this move happens, you can go bishop b7 hitting the queen. Now, another line is bishop e2 here. This is what Karpov used to play. It's called the classical. Now we go e5 in true Najdorf spirit, kicking this knight, and by controlling these squares, we make it more difficult for white to start an attack on the king side. This pawn push in turn makes this pawn a backward pawn and weakens also the d5 square. We intend to reinforce the d5 square by playing moves such as bishop e6 and, if necessary, knight bd7 supporting the knight on f6. Now we will bishop e7, castles, castles, bishop e3, bishop e6, and here the most popular in the Lichess database is f4, which is an idea at different points in this variation, going for f5, kicking this bishop so that the d5 square weakens. However, at this particular point in this position, we can just take here without any problems. They recapture knight c6, you get an approximately equal position. If they go here for bishop e3, that would be the English attack. This they have very aggressive intentions by going queen d2, long castles, and launching a pawn storm on the king side. I will recommend this move by Kasparov, knight g4, hitting the bishop and trying to get the bishop pair. Now they may go bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, g5, bishop g3, bishop g7, and we weaken the f5 square, but we will get counterplay based on playing queen b6 or queen or knight to e5 followed by knight bc6. The thing about this line is that white can go to home square with bishop c1. Then we go knight f6, and we are at the starting position of the Najdorf again. If white is cunning here, they might play f3, this allowing us to jump here with the knight, then bishop e3, queen d2, and long castles, getting basically the same setup that they were aiming for at the beginning. In practice, however, on the Lichess database, it shows that they haven't been cunning, and they have gone bishop g5 here, which is the next line that we're going to see. If they are true Ben Feingold fans, then they might play bishop e3. And then, with this repertoire, we're going to go knight g4 again, and if they go bishop c1, we always repeat with knight f6, showing them that we are actually truly Ben Feingold's fans. Now, bishop g5 is the next line that I wanted to take a look at. This is the main line of the Najdorf. Lots of theory here, of course. I'm going to give you the most popular line, the main line in modern theory. E6 is what we do here, and now white will play f4, aiming to take advantage of the pin on that knight. We go bishop e7, I'm pinning. Now they go queen f3, preparing to go long castles as well. And we play queen c7, disallowing bishop c4. Now long castles, we go knight bd7, defending this knight with the other. They play g4, we play b5. They take over here, we recapture g5, knight d7, f5, and we castle into the attack, which may seem counterintuitive, but this is the modern approach. Black gets counterplay in the form of b4. Now rook g1, b4, kicking this knight. This knight used to be controlling the d5 square. Now that it gets kicked, we can push this other pawn, kicking this knight as well. Now white may play f6, hitting the bishop. We trade like so, and we go rook e8. The computer gives white an advantage here, but in practical play, chances are about equal. So, alright, there you go, guys. This is the Najdorf in just 10 lines. Not just the Najdorf, but I mean the Sicilian. So a full repertoire against e4 in 10 lines. I think I did as best as I could here. If you like this kind of thing, then suggest me in the comment section which other opening you would like to see in the same format, and maybe we will create that poor man's repertoire next. So take care and see you on the next one.